Christians are called to be evangelists. The New Testament teaches me that. It's not just for one particular set of people. As Christians, we're all called to share the love of Jesus. Let's take God seriously. I want to help us in the task of evangelism, to put mission on the agenda, and to give our churches an aim to win one person for Christ.
The strength of Methodism is that it's a democratic movement of people with many different views about how we should work out our Christian discipleship. But we can't stay silent. God calls us to speak out.
The conference this year received the report of the Past Cases Review. This was an in-depth piece of work that looked back over the way in which the Church had dealt with allegations of abuse back to the 1950s. In receiving the report, the conference reaffirmed its apology for all those who had been hurt and damaged and ignored. But now, of course, the work begins, because in appointing an implementation group, the conference has committed itself to change a number of practices that will affect each of us in our daily ministry, each local Christian community. And in the course of the year and in the course of subsequent years, each of us will be hearing much more about how the cultural change can be achieved and the part we will play in that.
I think this report matters to the wider church because the church is a place where people should be safe in God's love, surrounded by people who want the best for them. And sometimes we as human beings do not live up to that.
Safeguarding is important because it's the responsibility of the whole church, not just lay employees or ministers, but all of us as a church family.
One of the key reports that was before the conference related to issues of connectionalism in the 21st century. The report gathered together existing thinking as well as representing some of the important points of what it is to be a Methodist today. And of course, one of the aspects of connectionalism is how we use our resources, how we share our experience, and how we benefit from an itinerant ministry.
I think that connection is just family, and I think that it's important that we get everyone involved in connection.
I think connectionalism means to me just being part of a whole body of fellow disciples within the Methodist tradition right across the country and indeed the world.
Connectionalism is about support, it's about membership of a family of Methodists in Britain and across the whole world. It's about sharing together the love of Jesus. It's about being connected as the body of Christ.
I thought the 3Gen report was really, really engaging. It was great to have so many different people speaking about it and on those really rich subjects.
Okay, well, I thought the 3Gen report was very lively, very interesting, very encouraging.
So I think the response from the 3Generate report today was really positive. We had so much support and some encouraging stories came out from specific districts, which was really exciting. So we see the work of 3Generate happening in local districts, which is so important.
3Generate have that uncanny knack of bringing to the church's attention today what the rest of the church needs to think about tomorrow.
Why does their report matter? Well, I think because they want to engage and get active in things that we sometimes shy away from, but we know they're important and they're very frank and upfront about it, and they challenge us to be the same.
Each year, the conference makes decisions in respect of candidates for the ministry, and so by a standing vote, it agreed to send it forward for training candidates for our ministry, that is presbyteral and diaconal. The conference also received into full connection those who have completed their training and their probation. These are important events in the life of the conference. These are journeys that have begun in the local circuits and are now shown to be bearing fruit in the ministry of those who serve us in our local churches. Each year, the Joint Advisory Committee on the Ethics of Investment, or JACI for short, makes a report to the conference summarising the way in which it has engaged with investors on ethical issues and to raise concerns about their policies. This year, the committee reported on two very significant points: the Church's engagement with Nestlé and also the use of fossil fuels, and whether or not the Church should be investing in companies that are engaged in the use of fossil fuels. They're worth careful attention, they're worth thinking about, because not only do they go to the very heart of how we use our resources, but they're also about the way in which we articulate a voice in the public space. One of the significant features of the conference, of course, is that any 10 members of the conference can propose what's called a notice of motion. Notices of motion can do all sorts of things, from amending an existing resolution through to encouraging the conference to think very seriously, very prayerfully about issues that are live in contemporary society. You'll find details of the notices of motion in the booklet Highlights of the Conference. You'll see there that the conference stood in solidarity with those who had been suffering through recent terrorist attacks. It expressed its concern about food banks, about adoption, about migration, and in doing this, the conference articulates the fact that its concern is not just for the domestic life of the Church, but is for the whole of God's creation.
I think the highlight of the conference for me was the Vice President's speech on Saturday, particularly when she spoke about protest, and that's something that I think is so important that we do, and that we're passionate about social justice and protesting for a better world.
And what I've really liked is the discussion and also the understanding that conference has brought about the idea of connectionalism a lot more, and I'm beginning to understand what it means, and hopefully I can take that back and help other people understand what it means in districts and circuits and local churches as well.
And then the World Church contributions, to see so many brothers and sisters coming from across the globe, worshiping together and sharing stories about what God is doing in their parts of the world.
A highlight for me at conference this year, being my first time, is just getting to know people, being involved in things and just understanding what's going on in the church across the whole connection, and feeling more part of the connection being here.